So we've got a fantastic afternoon lined up for you with more panel discussions, keynote speakers. We've got our second awards ceremony of the day as well, coming up a little bit later on. But we are about to get ready, I do believe, for our first talk of the afternoon. I think we're just waiting for everyone to arrive. I've been told to come up here and just keep speaking. So if I can't think of anything to say, I might have to sing, and nobody wants that. Oh, no. Jingle bells. Sing along. No, I'm not going to do that, don't worry. I'm not going to ruin the day and ruin the conference. But we are going to get started as soon as we have everybody here with us. Now, that could be any time now. In the meantime, ladies and gentlemen, are you enjoying it so far? Fantastic. It's good to hear. Well, I could at least tell you what the first session is all about before it begins, can't I? So we're going to be having a panel discussion, and it's with Harshal Patel, who we're just waiting for. I've just been speaking to him, so he's very close. We don't know how close. We can't find him. Oh, Harshal is here. Harshal, fantastic. Okay, so Harshal is ready, ladies and gentlemen. And can we please have a round of applause for Harshal, founder of BTB Venture Group. And Harshal, we also have Umer Qureshi to join you as well. So round of applause, everybody, for the first session this afternoon.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Are you still a little sleepy? Good afternoon. Superb. So my name is Harshal, and I am the CEO and founder of BTB Venture Group, and we are operational across 4 continents. Just for your information, I am not an educationalist. I am not from IIM, I am not from IIT, nor from Harvard. But I have learned hard way through incidental teaching, and that is what I'm going to talk today about how can be incidental teaching is important and crucial for kids to take the lens of entrepreneurship out there. And I think it is very important because, kids will learn more from the incidents than the textbooks. So according to you, what is the right age to learn entrepreneurship? What do you think? Quick questions. What is the right age to learn entrepreneurship? 7? Oh, superb. I think you are bang on this point. I think the right age to start learning about entrepreneurship is right from age 6 to age 21. And I think, if you have heard, about all these icons out there, right from Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, Satya Nadella, Sundar Pichai, all of them have started their career when they were kid out there. And I think children are really learning from the incidents out there, and if we don't want our children to make waves, we need to teach them to be a mediocre. Be normal and fit in. We can ask them to, dress like them. We can ask them to walk like them. We can ask them to act like them, eat like them, and we can ask children where they go. So in a nutshell, we need to teach them to think like entrepreneurs, and once they have neutralized this uniqueness, then they don't need courage. They don't need courage once they neutralize this process, and it takes courage to be different, it takes courage to be successful, and it takes courage to win, and it is possible with the incidental learning. So I would like to invite my colleague Umer Qureshi as well on the stage. So I think, mainly this panel, this fireside chat, I think you will have a different perspectives altogether. And I'll have the perspectives from the entrepreneurial spirit. So would love to hear your thoughts.
Right, thank you very much, Ashir. And obviously this panel discussion is a bit fast and very focused. My focus was mainly on that part, on the last part of the panel topic, discussion topic, that was with ASD. Now, we have two, three things which we need to understand. How this education system actually works across the world. In the developing countries, which are now at the moment more focused towards entrepreneurship and the soft skills that have to be intervened. But the problems with the developing countries is actually the Maslow is over Bloom. The social status, the income, the financial status that actually regulates a lot in teaching and learning. With the developed countries, the things are a bit different because the states are mostly the welfare states, where the public schooling systems are very powerful compared to the private schooling systems. Now, when we talk about entrepreneurship, it is very fascinating kind of topic that we talk about every day. I have worked during my one certification at UMass Amherst in United States. I met a guy who was running Project Icon at UMass Amherst. His name was Professor Scott. Now, Project Icon used to take the students from all the faculties, from all the departments of the university. They used to gather there and they had to complete certain credit hours by developing some startup and completing a project and submitting it. The interesting part that I came to know about that Project Icon was that the students used to gather early in the morning, sit together, open the newspapers, and the newspapers are full of problems. So they used to pick the problems of their department, their interest, and they used to start working on those projects. So for example, if a student is from biochemistry, the student used to pick the problem from the newspaper that is relevant to biochemistry, the other one is picking the topic from social sciences, the third one is picking from engineering. That is how they used to come up with the solutions for the problems. But when we go to the other part of the world, like I belong to Pakistan, and I know how teaching and learning mostly is done in India and Pakistan and that region. It's more like bureaucratic teaching. It's more like top down. It's more like we will tell and you will do. And expecting with this kind of mindset, we will tell and you will do, it actually snubs the creativity. So people rarely come up with the original thoughts because the environment, the social background actually forces the students to study to elevate their social status instead of learning something. So that is the first hindrance that we face. Then second is what I believed, and I'm here with an understanding that we will be talking about those students who are actually struggling as well. And they are teenagers. They are facing autistic problems, how the schools are dealing with them, and how to teach them those skills, those teaching skills that can actually help them out to wrestle with these challenges. So it's not easy peasy thing. I have worked as a teacher for 22 years. I started teaching grade 1. That was against the norm in Pakistan, because in Pakistan, if you are an engineer, you have to do engineering. But I left engineering, I started teaching, and I always loved to stay among the students. What I feel that during my teaching time, that the challenges are not that easy. Teaching is not a recipe. An American publisher published a book. Its name is Teach Like a Champion. And it's a fantastic book. It tells you how differentiated instruction should work, how the peer interactions should be done. It also tells you that what kind of assessment should be done, the formative, the summative, the assessment for learning, of learning, all the fancy terms blended together in that book. But even that book had to face the criticism because the people in the United States started criticizing that this book has actually snatched the creativity of the teacher. So, teaching is not a recipe. It's not like you are cooking rice or you are cooking biryani. So, biryani recipe and teaching recipe are not the same, and obviously, it can't be same. I, as a teacher, did lot of mistakes, lots of blunders. I mean, yeah, I did. But then I learned a lot from those mistakes. In our region, in the developing countries, the major problem is that the mistakes are stigmatized. They are actually used to judge the people. And that is why, if the student is struggling, they face the big problem. So, judgment is one fear, lots of fears. But in developed countries, I did spend a lot of time in United States, in UK, and other countries. What I love about their education system is they don't focus on the mistakes, they focus on the learning.
Absolutely, and I think in continuation with you, I think the fundamental purpose of the incidental teaching is, children should learn how to recognize the opportunities. The basic fundamental of education is to learn the opportunities, understand the opportunities, and many people never meet their full potential because they fail to recognize an opportunity. So teaching our children to seek out opportunities and take action on them will directly contribute to their level of success out there. And how we can teach, I mean, the main purpose is not to bombard them through incidents. How can we do it? So maybe we can praise our children, for pointing out small problems or the setbacks that they have in their lives. It could be a very, shady problem. Maybe, they don't like the soggy sandwiches at the lunchtime, or not being able to reach their items on the higher shelf. So I think we need to produce the brainstorming techniques with the children, and we can together work with children in order to innovate and try teaching them how to identify the opportunities out there.
Ashir, let's be very frank. I spent yesterday whole day. It's a beautiful session. It's a wonderful conference. But what I normally observe in many conferences, not talking about this conference, when we come here, we try to sugarcoat everything. We don't try to answer the tough questions, the difficult questions that actually a teacher faces in the classroom. So the first thing is the financial status. The second thing is we have the best model in the world, that is Finland's model. We normally say that the students should do a lot of work, I mean the hands-on with the minds on, rather than hands-on with the minds off. And in many cases, there are hands off, but the minds are on. So when we go for PBL, we go for project-based learning. Finland model is there. But Finland is a very small country. We can't apply that thing over United States. And 52, 53 states, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong. And apologies for misquoting the states, but I think there are 52 or 53 states. Now, Massachusetts is number one in the world. Why? Boston. In Boston, there is Harvard, there is Stanford. There are big educationists sitting there, and that is an education hub, which has actually lifted the country's overall average on OECD ranking. Now, coming to Finland, Finland did try this thing that the students should do a lot of work instead of spending time in the classrooms. But again, how many countries in the world will be able to follow that model? Floating those crispy ideas on the public forums is fantastic. It gives you goosebumps. You feel really motivated. But think about a car. The car has no gears and just an accelerator. You keep on pressing the accelerator. The car is highly motivated, but it's not going anywhere. This is what normally happens. We meet, we greet, we talk, we leave. And then one of my American friends, his name is Fred Andy, who has written a book, The Professional Development That Sticks. I know he's my actually very good friend, and I said, Fred, I'm going to write a book. He said, what? I said its title will be the professional development that sucks. So I have attended hundreds of professional developments that actually suck. The problem is with the trainings as well. The professional development that actually trickles down to the classroom. This is the first thing. If the teacher is not thoughtful, you can't expect the students to be thoughtful. It can't happen like that. If the teacher is not ready to accept results from a mistakes, the students will not be able to accept the mistakes. So imagine a novel situation where everyone is so fantasized and actually dreaming to be known and labeled as an entrepreneur, but not ready to commit the mistakes, not ready to go for the challenges, not thinking about the risks. Within minimum risks, there will be minimum beneficial outputs. So first thing that whatever you said, you talked about how we have to induce that thing. You know, being a hardcore teacher, whatever is said in this conference, I imagine it back in my classrooms. I don't teach these days except for few subjects at the university level because I'm mostly involved in my business and all that stuff. But I imagine my classroom when I used to teach grade 1, grade 2, grade 3. Just rolling an idea wasn't enough there. It needed lot of examples to be set in the classrooms, which the students learn from their teacher. So first, we have to make a breed. We have to prepare a breed of the teachers who are risk takers, who are fearless, who actually don't go by books only, by the framework only, but are ready to accept the challenges and accept the mistakes as well. That is the example which is presented in front of the students. First thing. Second thing is the professional development that is given to the teachers that needs lot of revisions. The problem with the education sector happens when the pace of educational research and practices does not cope with the change in advancement in technology. And still we are facing a lot of issues when we deal with the autistic children. It is good, it works well with the primary school, but it doesn't work well with the secondary school and the higher secondary school. Imagine the teenagers facing the autistic problems. Now, you cannot make a separate school for the autistic children. They have to study with the normal children. In developing countries, what actually happens, if you get a child who is autistic, the school is labeled as a special school. Think for a while. Walk in the shoes of those people who open that school. When a school is labeled as a special school, the normal children cease to come. Now that child is automatically isolated. So, lot of awareness is required. Even in the developed countries, that challenge is there. In United States, that challenge is always there. Many organizations are working on that part. But still, there's a long way to go. Coming to that part, that how good it is for the student to learn from these incidental teaching strategies. Yes, they are good. I mean, there is a fiction, there is beautiful dream, but when it trickles down to the classrooms, it actually, the main idea is left somewhere behind. So we need to grasp the idea very carefully and bring it down gradually. So the teachers are trained, the awareness is there, the society is accepting it. Let me share one more thing. In my country, in Pakistan, research says that there is no development ever happened or no learning ever happened by giving homeworks. Amazingly, in Pakistan, if you don't give the homework, the parents will be after your life. Because they want to punish that kid who has actually landed on this planet due to some beautiful moments, And that is the authenticity of the child. What they want actually, they want the child to sit at home with a pen, with a notebook, and the mother is doing the homework. And the child is going to submit it next day. I mean, what's the point? I run a school chain. In my school chain, it's totally banned to give homework whatsoever. But that is one school. That is one school chain. That is only, I think it's just 0.001% of the whole population. Bringing such kind of awareness. So for example, Hashir, if you have a school and you are coming with these bombastic ideas that the student should learn through the incidental strategies, and we are going to talk about the big ideas, try it at my country, in my country, try it in your country. What will happen? You will get a backlash. So such conferences should also advocate the necessary changes. If we were practicing something wrong for over 50 years, doesn't mean we can't change it. We should change it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I have two examples that we have seen really good success with actually. The one was about the financial literacy. So with University of Pune, what we have done is in 10 schools, we have given the access to the students about one of the app called as Money Control. And we have give them a dummy money out there in order to learn about the stock trading. And surprisingly, out of 80 students, 35 participated in that particular thing. Some of them also lose some money out there, but they learned about how to handle a stock market when they will grow old. Of course, I think learning Pythagoras theorem is simultaneously important, or learning Newton's rule is also equally important. But when we will go in the real time, when the children will grow up, I think financial literacy also is one of the important aspects that educationalists can include in their curriculum. The second example was about teaching creativity to the students. So I think in one of the sports event that we have recently did, the name of the college is Cummins, which is a big group in India. So along with the sports competitions, we hosted a Shark Tank competition. And you'll be surprised, actually almost all the students participated there. The prize was 5,000 rupees per student who will win the award, and they were going to present the idea. One of the kid, she came back and she said that she will act as an integrator and she will sell the ice cream to all the students for entire year for 12 months. In the first month, she made money of 2,000 rupees, and in the 12th month, her revenue was 1,75,000 rupees. Surprisingly, what she did, she started with the ice cream, and then right now she's also selling the t-shirts of the Marvel. She's doing a customized printing on those t-shirts. I think entrepreneurship is not about just going with the flow, but I think it is a mindset. And teaching a mindset is also a critical, and as you said, I think there are challenges when you will go in the real time and when you will take that particular nod. It is difficult aspect, and that's where the innovation is required. Because surprisingly, there are statistics that Snapchat, Instagram, and Facebook have been popularly used by the children nowadays. But if we take out the statistics of how many children are using the Headspace in order to learn their stress management techniques, we'll find a very less number of children using it. The reason is there is a lot of buzz that is happening in the market about the Facebook, Snapchat, and Instagram. What if I know one school in India, they made compulsory for children in order to use the Headspace. They made compulsory to the students in order to use Google Calendar in order to schedule their entire day. Now, Google Calendar is very important when they will go into a real life. So I think practically it is also important that how can we induce the minute practical aspect of it. We are not going to leave the education. Of course, it is extremely important, and the country strives because of the teachers like you. I mean, people are getting built due to the teachers like you. I think it is also to get a little bit of practical aspect into it. So one of the examples that we have done with one of the entrepreneurial schools is, it was a 7th standard schools, and we wanted to teach them about the marketing. Now, fundamentally, if we are going to host the conference for them and if we are going to teach them marketing, they will not learn it. So what we have done is we have taken a trip and we asked them to make a note of how many billboards that they have seen on the road and what was their observations. We have taken them to a pizza store and we asked them that what kind of strategies that have attracted you, that we asked them to point out. Another example of practicality is in the Expo 2020, I met interesting entrepreneur along with his children, and that children was 12-year-old. and he was carrying a Google spreadsheet with him, and he was making a note that at what point in time, which pavilion he's going to meet. And he was making a list in that particular spreadsheet. Interestingly, he figured out, he met 80 people around there, and he made a list of it. He also created a presentation because he wanted to showcase that presentation to his parent, and he was doing it with a lot of enthusiasm because it was interesting for him. On the way, he was seeing the dinosaurs, but on the simultaneously, he was also seeing, some of the good marketing quotes which were presented there. So I think it's a hybrid approach of incidental teaching, because education is going to support them, but incidental teaching will also support them from a long run when they will grow up.
I would like to add one thing. Life is all about balance. What I observe normally, these days entrepreneurship is a hot cake that everyone loves. But at the same time, we don't only need entrepreneurs. We need researchers. We do need wonderful researchers and doctors and PhDs as well. We have to keep a balance. In terms of in terms of the human psychology can be trained on any aspect, any aspect. It's the beauty of the mind, it's the beauty of the brain. But when you have to keep the balance in the society, we have to think about one thing. We do need doctors, we do need engineers, we do need lawyers, we do need businessmen, we do need entrepreneurs as well. If the school curriculum is 100% focused on entrepreneurship, again it will be a disaster. Mark my words, it will be a disaster. Whenever everyone is focused on one particular area, that area gets inflated. And inflation of that profession is really disastrous, because then obviously it has no worth. Coming to the second part, I came across these ideas that entrepreneurs are normally the college dropouts. That is a myth. It's not about only the college dropouts. Yes, some of the successful college dropouts were successful entrepreneurs as well, but at the same time, there were very good graduates of the universities and colleges who became later very successful entrepreneurs as well. So, when we talk about these all things that the incidental strategies should be applied in the classrooms, yes, should be applied, should be talked about, but a regular part of the curriculum that we teach, and there is a lot of brainstorming done already by the best minds of the country to bring that curriculum. When we talk about the student learning outcomes, when we talk about the benchmarks, like in the Common Core in United States, and we do have the curriculum at the national level as well. Teaching those things clash at times with the state's agenda. So the political part does invade. Like there are few things that I cannot teach in Pakistan, there are few things that you cannot teach in India, though those are the facts, but that is the hidden part which we don't do. So what I think, the students actually look at the teacher as the model. If the teacher is risk-taking, as I mentioned earlier, if the teacher is able to follow the challenges, the students will automatically adopt that thing. They do follow, especially when they are in the primary schools. The second part is, teachers' training is very important. Now, what we do normally in professional development programs, we tell the teachers that entrepreneurship should be embedded, should be brought in your daily teaching, incidental strategies should be brought. But again, I say, it's not a recipe. It can't be distributed. My recipe will not work with you in your classroom, and your recipe will not work with me. So, the first thing at the moment when the big think tanks sit together, they need to advocate and foresee. An educationist or a school teacher, even a school teacher, should not be recognized on immediate results. An educationist should keep his or her fingers on the pulse of the society, where the society is heading to, where these children will be standing after 30 years and 40 years. If we cannot foresee that part, maybe today, if we are emphasizing a lot on entrepreneurship, after 50 years, there is no need of any entrepreneur because the artificial intelligence is so groomed that they think about the idea, they develop the problem. I mean, the problem is there, but they develop the solution and they spread it in the market. Think about that. What will happen after 50 years? Where this all advocacy will go when those students who will be trained on purely entrepreneurship, purely on incidental teaching, will enter in the market. So that is again, there is no hard and fast rule. There shouldn't be a conclusion of this panel discussion, but there must be a lot of questions rolled on the forum so the people can think and work on it.
And I think if we want to, summarize both our points, I think I would like to sum it up with, Albert Einstein's quote, which is education is not the learning of facts, but the training the mind to think. And I think entrepreneurship is all about a mindset. And together, as an educational community, if the entrepreneurial element is embedded into a school curriculum, certainly students will fail in their daily lives, but when they will grow up, this entrepreneurial mindset will help them to sustain in their day-to-day routines actually.
Perfect. And entrepreneurship is more related to creativity. So creative minds are trained. Though creativity is not with everyone, as many psychologists suggest. I forget the name of a very famous professor from Harvard University. He says that creativity is not something with everyone. But yeah, the creative people enter in the entrepreneurship, and creativity should not be snubbed, should not be stopped by the schools. So for example, if you are creative and you are walking out of this room, you will be having 100 different creative ways to walk out of the room. If you are in love with someone, you have 100 different ways to please the person through the gifts, I mean. So creativity should not be snubbed at all, because through creative minds, we come up with the ideas of the entrepreneurship.
Absolutely.
So we do have time?
Yeah, we have a few
Okay.
time for questions if there are any questions.
Any questions?
Thank you guys.
My name is Humaira Naseem and I'm from Pakistan. I really like the topic of discussion and I can really relate to it. I want to add one comment and then I have a question. I really like the concept of accepting or embracing the mistakes, which are so very important for entrepreneurship. While at the same time, we belonging to the developing countries, and me, being part of, my education purely belongs to Pakistan. So what I've learned through the kind of education system that's there in the subcontinent or back in Pakistan, I think it teaches us a lot of resilience, which is very important in our entrepreneurship, along with risk-taking and embracing the mistakes. My question regarding autism and neurodiversity is, how can the gifts of neurodiversity can be utilized with respect to entrepreneurship?
Perfect. I should answer, right? Thank you. Your name is Humaira? Okay. Humaira, there are a few things that we need to acknowledge. The first one is the acceptance of that child in the society. The second thing is, obviously, a lot of research is done on the autistic children and their neurodiversity. But the most important thing is, when they enter in the classroom, the people who are taking care of that kid must also be familiar with the research. So the country where we belong to, or the region that we belong to, literacy is only focused, not education. So there's a lot of literacy, a lot of focus on literacy, but there is a very, very small focus on real education. The teachers need to understand how the neurodiversity works, number one. Number two, the autistic child is sitting with the normal children. I mean, we call it normal, but we don't know actually. It's a relative term. So, so like we all normal, having few autistic behind the cameras, I mean, we need to bring inclusion in the classrooms. So first part is bringing inclusion. The second part is, I give you one example. In my one of the schools, there was two children who were autistic. And this is my first-hand experience. I work as the CEO of my schools. And I came to know about that child who had a very rough behavior towards the teachers, towards the peers, towards everyone. And that child only loved me, fortunately or unfortunately. Why? Day one, I came to know that there is a very problematic child. He is a walking time bomb. I mean, can explode anytime. There are a lot of problems. It throws away those worksheets that the teachers come up with in the classrooms and all that. And his father was my friend as well. So his father actually told me about that. I visited that school. I met that child. He was normal. We labeled him as autistic. Fine, autistic symptoms were there. He was more focused on universe. He wanted to learn about galaxies. He wanted to learn about planets. He wanted to talk about black holes. He wanted to talk about neutron stars. My subject throughout the career is physics and mathematics. So I love universe, or I pretend that I love universe, and I pretend very well. So I called up that guy and I said, oh, okay, let's talk about black hole. There are many holes. There is one black hole, and there are many stars roaming around it. The child was okay. I once upon a time I bought a book from England, and that was for my own daughter. It was about Hubble telescope images. I gave him that book, and I said, okay, next time we will be talking about this book in detail. That child still calls me. He's no more in the school. He messages me. He is in Saudi Arabia these days. The point is not about the self-praise. The point is, once we recognize that this child needs a little more attention and needs someone to listen, to hear, then the child will come up with the original ideas. And believe me, that child had wonderful ideas about universe, about galaxies. He used to mess up all the galaxies and reschedule everything. It was lovely. But we get offended. We, the teachers, we who are suffering from adulthood, we actually get offended. So bring out those entrepreneurial skills from an autistic child, and a child having a neurodiversity needs a lot of patience first. And patience comes with the professional development. I think I'm able to answer this question.
All right. It was very enlightening. I have one, maybe I'm thinking out loud. For thousands of years, the education, the classroom has been remained same, like 30 students, 40 students, one teacher. And even today, we see the same thing. And while we're talking about entrepreneurship and creativity here, so following the same academic, same syllabus for 30 or 40 students, I mean, everyone who has two or more than two kids can, maybe say, second me that no two kids are same, right?
True.
And so everyone needs their own, I think, tailored syllabus for themselves so that they can prove themselves. I mean, if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, so it will live its whole life believing it's worthless, isn't it?
Agreed.
And likewise, this MCQ and same assessment, I believe the one who invented this or discovered this, Christopher, he himself said it's too cruel to be used and will be using it since then. So what you say on this?
My take on this is that, yeah, innovation, I said it earlier that innovation in education sector is not that high paced like in automobile industry or in aviation. We love to have 30 people in the classroom sitting in the rows, teaching them something, out of world, giving them a paper, getting results, 93% dancing everyone. Everyone dances when we get 93%, though there is a loss of 7% as well. But we dance on 93%, celebrating big honors, first position. I quote one example. My eldest child is in grade 9. When she was in the playgroup school, KG was there. In Pakistan, that is the British system of KG and nursery and all that. So she was in KG. One fine day, my wife told me that, I said, yeah, I know, but what? She said, our child is a slow learner. I said, how did you come to know about this thing? She says, the teacher actually told that the child is a slow learner. I straight away walked to the teacher and I asked, okay, that is a really great, discovery in my family that my child is a slow learner. So can I have some data? She said, she is a slow learner. I said, okay, but how? She said she will never come on first position in the class. I said, okay, I never stood first in my class. My father never never stood first in the class. My grandfather didn't come on the first position. In 40, steps in my ancestor chain, in my bloodline, no one's comes on first position, and we are perfectly normal human beings. We don't have gold medals, we don't have big honors. We are fine with that, and I want my child to be a normal human being. So the first thing that you mentioned is that bureaucratic sort of idea in those countries, like in India and Pakistan, in Bangladesh, in Indo-Pak region, yes, that is the problem. But look at the models of Finland, South Korea, Norway, Belgium, and Canada. United States is number 8 in the list because of Massachusetts and Florida and a couple of other states. But look at the education models of those countries. Follow Finland. Finland has no regular testing system till grade 8. We actually push the child to the competition. Competition is the law of the jungle. Collaboration is the law of the civilized society. That is said by a famous Russian thinker. So that is what we need to bring. What we do, we try to dictate everything, plus we throw these fancy words. 2 children are not same. Obviously, they are not same. Then that is why we have differentiated instructions. That is why we have small groups. We have mixed groups, small groups. In developed countries, I taught at Chicago Public School. I have spent some time in Amherst Regional High School, and those schools are beautiful. In Chicago Public School, 26 languages are taught. Imagine the diversity there. The students are from Libya, the students are from Iraq, the students are from Pakistan, from various parts of the world. They are sitting together, and they are learning. And when diversity comes in the schools, the system emerges as organic, not as mechanical. And humans are organic. If there is a problem that a seed is not germinating, the problem is not with the seed, the problem is with the greenhouse. There is a flaw in the greenhouse, and the greenhouse needs to be totally revamped. And if it is not able to germinate many seeds, I always say, my apologies for this harsh word, that if the greenhouse is not supporting the seed, trash it, dump it, before it contaminates or it actually kills more seeds. I hope I would be able to answer.